Started. Chairman Morris is a little bit under the weather this morning, so he cannot be with us. We certainly hope he gets to feeling better. At this time, I would ask Commissioner McCoy if she will lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us bow our heads, please. Dear Lord, once again, we come before you just giving thanks for the many blessings and the special things that you have done for us. I ask that you continue to bless us. Bless this board. Bless the members of our community. And bless all our agencies that serve the people here. Dear Lord, I ask you to continue to work with us, guide us, give us the knowledge, the wisdom, and the patience to do what we need to do in serving our constituents. And Lord, I pray and I ask that you guide us in what we are here for, and that is to serve the people of this county. Thank you. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner McCoy. At this time, we will ask Ms. Lynn Lambert to come forward and give us an update on the Riverside Community Drainage Project.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having us here this morning. As you requested, we're here this morning to provide an update on the status of the Riverside Community Drainage Improvement Project. Melissa, if you'll click to let's see if I can. There we go. As you all know, the Soil and Water Conservation Office has been involved in this project for the last 2 to 3 years. We became involved with this area of concern in the spring of 2021 at the request of both the commissioners and county administration due to the amount of concern that was being voiced from the community of standing water within the community, near roadsides, near homes, that had been standing for quite some time. Of course, we know that Riverside is an area within the county that has had historical drainage issues. It lies in between the upper Little River as well as the Cape Fear River, and the Beaver Dam Swamp Canal runs through the Riverside community underneath Bun Level Irwin Road. And so the maps at the top of this particular page shows where the community is situated. The way that this project started out was from concerns voiced by the citizens. We had multiple phone calls, emails, visits from concerned members of the community. And so in order to move forward in figuring out a plan of action and really what the needs were in this community, we held a community listening session. Our first one was on May 5th of 2021, and it was followed by several others. At this particular community meeting, citizens were able to tell us of their greatest areas of concern so that we could move forward with site visits. From this, we began site assessments, our preliminary site assessments, in order to see where the greatest areas of needs were and how our office may be able to help with the drainage concerns in this particular community. In addition, we were able to organize a tour of the quarry. The quarry is in this particular community, and of course we all know that quarries handle a lot of water. And so we wanted to eliminate that from being a particular area of concern and help provide some education to the community about the regulations that surrounded a quarry and how they handle the water that runs through that property. And so we had a a great tour of the quarry there, a great presentation that I think was a great educational tool for both our staff and the community. Melissa, if you'll click on that blue block there, preliminary site assessments. Oh. Yeah. Okay. All right. So from our preliminary site assessments, we were able to come to the conclusion that this was not just a water issue that concerned a small area of one or two residences, but it was truly a whole community watershed issue. And so for this reason, we were able to reach out and have a third-party study conducted by Wetland Solutions. We were able to utilize community funds. We were able to find a sponsor, so there were no county funds that were involved in this particular assessment. It was paid for by a sponsor. And this sponsor and this watershed assessment was able to identify that there are 3 main drainage ways through this Riverside area: drain A, drain B, and drain C. And then from this study, we identified areas of concern, standing water, as well as the large pile of tires that was in a drainage way. And in this, we were able to then move forward with an action plan of where to do work in these particular areas in an effort to open some of these drainage ways. Melissa, if you'll click on the map. Okay. So from there, after we received the community watershed assessment, we were then able to move forward with an action plan. It took us a while to get the project, of course, organized and funding secured to move forward with this project. And we began landowner communication and held additional landowner meetings in October of 2022. We made multiple phone calls, mailed letters, performed additional site visits with landowners to secure permission to conduct the work that our study called for. From this point, we moved to phase 1 and phase 2 of the project. Phase 1 was cleaning out of several ditches within the area and replacing culverts with larger, more properly sized culverts to allow for greater water flow, as well as cleaning out the ditches to return them to their natural capacity. As you can imagine, over time, drainage ditches fill with sediment, they fill with organic debris, and so we cleaned these ditches out in 4 particular areas in order to return them to more of their original volume. Our intent with this part of the project was not to redesign the ditches or the canal system in any way, as we do not have the authority to do so. However, we were able to go in there and remove lots of sediment and the organic debris that had settled that would return them to more of their original capacity so that the water has somewhere to go instead of pushing further out onto the private property that adjoins them. So that was phase 1. Phase 2 was to remove the tire pile that was within the drainage area. There's only 1 parcel of land between the large tire pile and the Cape Fear River, and so we felt like that was an important piece to be removed to allow water to flow more freely through that area. In addition, it was an environmental concern because of the habitat that it provides for both snakes and mosquitoes. And so in doing that portion of the project, phase 2, we removed 13 tractor trailer loads of tires that had been abandoned in that particular area. Melissa, if you can click on phase 1 and 2, that blue block. So these are some of the after pictures from both phase 1 and phase 2. The top picture is where we installed a larger culvert to allow water to flow more freely through that area. The bottom left is a ditch that we cleaned out along property on Gentry Road, and then the bottom right is the end of Roosevelt Road where the tire pile was removed, and we were able to work with DOT to have end of road markers put there to hopefully help prevent further dumping in that particular area. Okay, if you'll click on the top picture. So once phase 1 and phase 2 of the project were conducted, we continued to communicate with landowners through phone calls and property visits. We certainly understand that phase 1 and phase 2 of this project, while we were hoping that it would certainly assist with giving water somewhere to go within the community, from the very beginning, we knew that those particular tasks involved with this project would not be the ultimate solution for this community. This community lies within a very flat area. There is very little slope. And we also understand that much of the drainage system in this particular area is governed by the Army Corps of Engineers. And so with phase 1 and phase 2, we performed as an office the tasks that we were able to do within the authority and with the landowner permissions that we were given from the community. And from this point forward, we understand that the concerns are still there from the citizens. There's still standing water in that area, and there is still work that hopefully can be done to alleviate the standing water issues within this community. We have continued landowner communication. We still get phone calls, we still get emails, and we answer those as we can in order to gauge the needs and interest of the community there. So as we continue to investigate what can be done in the Riverside community, one of the portions of our initial study did call for installation of 2 different culverts under Bun Level Irwin Road. And so as we continue to work on this project, we have pulled in the North Carolina Department of Transportation and requested that they take a further look at what can be done as far as installation of these culverts under Bun Level Irwin Road. At this time, after further hydraulic study by DOT, they do not recommend the installation of these culverts as indicated in our initial assessment. And the reason for this is, according to their particular models, they have determined that moving more water downstream beneath Bun Level Irwin Road would actually prove to be a negative impact on the community downstream. Of course, when you move water from upstream downstream, that water has to have somewhere to go. And so if we were to allow water to move underneath Bun Level Irwin Road through installation of these 2 culverts, we would be actually putting water in a more residential portion of the community and potentially creating greater flooding issues during rain events. And so this is, of course, something that DOT at this time is not interested in doing. However, they are certainly open to further investigation. And so that leads us to the next step in our study, is that we feel like we need to take this study a step further with a professional licensed engineer. And so for this reason, we would like to seek permission from the commissioners to move forward with a professional engineering firm in order to further investigate the needs of the Riverside community and to help us produce models and potential scenarios in which drainage improvements could be made and what impact that the potential improvements would have, not only on the immediate area where the work would take place, but to residents and properties on downstream wherever that water would need to be moved to. And so through the use of an engineering firm for further study, they would evaluate existing flooding. They would create hydraulic models for various ages of storm events, 5-year, 10-year, 25-year, 100-year storm events. They would provide us with a preliminary engineering report, including the conceptual solutions to decrease the frequency and the flooding within the Riverside community. And then in addition to the conceptual drawings and potential work that could take place moving forward, they would assist us in communicating these conceptual changes to the drainage system to the community members in order to get their feedback and see how they feel about the particular proposed changes. At that point, once we have those conceptual plans in place and further communication with the community, this engineering firm could then help us evaluate the funding that would be needed to be secured to implement these potential changes in the drainage patterns, as well as they would help us navigate any permitting needs that would be needed to be applied for with agencies such as the Army Corps of Engineers. And then we would move forward once those permits and funding was secured. We would then move forward with additional community engagement, seek the funds, and then, of course, landowner permission with work that is to potentially be done. So we're here today to ask you to consider approving that we move forward with an engineering firm for further study of this project. We, as a Soil and Water Conservation Office, realize that at this point we have moved forward to the extent that we have the ability to do without that engineering level of authority.
Do we have any idea what the cost of that engineering firm will be?
We do not at this time. We want to issue a request for proposals, and so that we can have them submit a proposal to see what the cost of that study would be. We actually have some funding that is remaining in the line item that was set aside as a part of the ARPA project to cover the expense of this study. So the funding is there to cover the expense.
Mr. Chairman, the entire time that Ms. Lambert was talking about DOT and their quote-unquote hydraulic study, I was thinking we need an outside engineering firm. I would move to put this on the consent agenda for our next meeting for approval.
I second that.
Madam Clerk, if you put that on the consent agenda for, so that we can authorize the request for proposals for that. Any other questions for Ms. Lambert?
Yes, I have questions.
Yes, ma'am.
I have been working with this for a number of years, going back to the early part of 2001. And some of the other commissioners here have engaged and tried to help with this problem. I don't understand why we are here at this 2024 and not have anything in place as far as bringing in a state engineer for the study of how to fix this problem. I do know that there are other places in this county that have problems with water overflowing in areas. And I see in the past, we have found ways to do that. Now, I got some of the citizens here from that area. They pay taxes like any other citizen in this county. Not all the citizens in that area are minorities. So I'm putting it out here that I want something done because they deserve it. No one citizen need to live in an environment like that. And if it's an engineering study gonna come in and tell us that there is nothing can be done, that can be done, I feel like that should have been done a long time ago. We've been waiting since 2020, 21, when Mr. Wood was here. He agreed to help fix this problem, but he was an interim. He did fix City Grove with the flooding water that they had over there. No one said that that couldn't be fixed. But those people suffered for many years. But they fixed it because we had someone interested in fixing it. So your report, I accept your report, and I appreciate the work that you put into the Riverside area and the study. But until a state engineer come in here and tell me there's nothing that can be done, I don't accept that. So thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else? Ms. Lambert, I have to say that I concur with Ms. Commissioner McCoy and her comments this morning. I understand that from your presentation that you've been involved with this since 2021, something like that. I can tell you, having worked in that community for many years, that problem's been going on for a long, long time. It's disappointing to me that we've cleaned ditches and waterways, and I appreciate you removing the tires. That is definitely a mosquito problem. I'm not sure how much of a drainage problem that created, but I'm glad they are gone. However, it's disappointing to me that DOT is refusing to allow that water to go downstream. That road is effectively acting as a dam, in my opinion. I'm not a engineer to know all the details to that. I seem to also remember sometime in this process that there was discussion about a missing culvert or a culvert that should have been in place that nobody could find. What happened with that discussion?
That was one of, we had them research. They were saying that there potentially was a culvert under Bun Level Irwin Road, and we had multiple resources go out and search for that culvert, and that culvert was not found. We even had folks from Harnett Regional Water that have the capability, the technology to search for covered culverts, and they were not able to find it, as well as DOT was not able to find it in their particular system. And so that may be the one that you're thinking about.
It probably is, because I seem to remember that the design indicated 3 culverts there. There were only 2. So it would seem to me if there were 3 in the design and they can only find 2, that DOT ought to be willing to put the 3rd one in. So
Yes, sir.
I am disappointed in that response. But I am in favor of finding a solution to this problem. I guess my question would be, if we spend this money on this private study and we get a possible solution, is DOT going to be willing to work with us to help that solution come to fruition?
In the meeting that we had with DOT staff, they did allude to the fact that they were certainly open to further investigation. Ms. McCoy was there that day that we met with them, and that they were willing to take a look at further study and take that into consideration. Yes, beyond the means that they have for their investigation, they were willing to hear and consider other reports.
Mr. Chairman, and to further elaborate on this, I'm not surprised at all about DOT's findings. We have a similar situation up on Harnett Central Road across from Harnett Central Middle School. We got DOT up there. It was a water issue, and they said, "Not our problem," and they walked away. Water's not DOT's problem, apparently. I guess when it takes the road out, then it'll become their problem.
Well, unfortunately, I'm not surprised either, but again, common sense tells me that road's making a dam there and it's restricting that flow of water. and it's causing these citizens issues that they shouldn't be having to face. But we will leave that on the consent agenda and move forward, but I think it's incumbent upon all of us to talk to our senators and legislators and see if we can't get some help. This has been going on a long time.
I have one more thing to say. When I was elected in 2014, a culvert was put on that road because it was flooding the road so badly, nobody could come through there. And a lot of our county employees take that route into Littleton to work, and it worked. So I don't understand this report that DOT is giving us, because it took months to do it, but it happened. And now that road, people are coming through there, except for when we have a heavy flooding rain, So I accept the report, and I gotta say that you've done as much as you can do, and I appreciate that work that you've done. You and Coley. I appreciate the work that you have done, but it's more work needs to be done. Thank you.
Anything else for Ms. Lambert? Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Fouts, ARPA funding update.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As well. Good morning. That spreadsheet that I just handed you, only minor differences from the one that's in the agenda packet. I just updated some of the numbers on the far right expended line. I'm trying to make sure all the supplanted projects that's accurately reflected, and then I added the interest available at the bottom. Okay, so good morning. I am here to kind of twofold. One is to ask for approval of this updated funding plan, and two, to kind of provide an update on what Kimberly and I reported on our January report. So I would like to kind of make this a reoccurring thing just every quarter after the finance officer and I submit the report on behalf of the county. We thought it would be a good idea to kind of let you know what happened, what did we report. So I gave you a page memo, just kind of everything we reported, and wanted to clear up any confusion because I know some projects like we've started in January, but they were not the contract wasn't signed by the end of December. So just wanted to clear up any of your confusion on that, make sure we're all on the same page, also to help keep my record straight because there's a lot going on with this. Okay, so the main takeaways though from that memo, the main things that changed would be well, really just the one thing. So management has strongly recommended to move the DSS upfit project down to supplanted funding. So the reason for this being mostly because if we do end up receiving all of the broadband grants, then we would actually have to pull out of our supplanted funding potentially to make ends meet with those projects. And so in the interest of making sure we have enough money set aside for those projects, we strongly recommend moving that DSS upfit down to supplanted funds. And the finance officer and I did actually submit a January report reflecting as such. The reason we chose this project is because the federal government has very, very strict requirements with regards to building capital projects. And we thought that if any of them had to go, it would be that one, simply to make sure that our records are straight and there's no questions about our projects. So all that said, we are still moving forward with the the North Harnett wastewater treatment plant upgrade contribution, the first great grant that we've been awarded, and potentially a second great grant, and potentially a CAB grant. We are still awaiting announcement on those. And then we have completed the Viper radios for emergency staff, and we are also we're in process of providing Viper radios for all the police departments in the county. Premium pay for EMS employees was also completed as far as the ARPA category goes, but we are still moving forward with completing that kind of retention pay in the supplanted category. I had presented that back in April of last year. Just simple changes. So again, we had to change where that funding was coming from due to the federal government's regulations. And then moving down to the displaced funding, the only thing that's really changed here, other than me, like I said, updating the expended amount to make sure you all are aware of how much money we've spent on each of these projects, is I did add that contribution to Salibi YMCA down there. So these are the most recently updated numbers of all of the projects. Again, just to remind you, allocated is the allocated column shows the funding that you all have approved for that project. The obligated means that we've signed a contract or put a grant project ordinance in place, and then expended is we've actually written the check. So I am available for further question or further discussion.
Any questions for Ms. Fouts? Hearing none, thank you for the update.
Chairman, if I
Thank
could
you
add,
for your management of this as well.
Of course.
add a couple things. So as we just got done talking about the Riverside project, you'll see it's still $750,000 that's saved for that project. So that's where, once we have our figure for the engineering cost and or any projects that are recommended, we still have funds that are set aside. The key figure that we continue to work towards is our obligation of funds by December 31 of 2024 for that top part. We have a plan in place that if those great grants or CAB grants do not occur, that the money will go towards the wastewater treatment plant.
Sounds good. So essentially, we have almost $600,000 left in the Riverside funds,
Yes,
it looks to
correct.
me like, yep. So that would certainly
Certainly cover the engineering and,
Cover the engineering,
and probably
hopefully-
a project would be my
hopefully any
guess.
part of the solution that we need to help with, at least go make a dent in trying to fund that if, again, if we can get cooperation from DOT, I
We will
guess.
next
So,
It'll be on the consent to approve the
yeah. So you can put that on the consent agenda for
Yes.
next time. Everybody okay with that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, discuss a request to approve an update to the airport emergency plan. Mr. Frank, I believe you have Mr. Milton with you this morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here today to ask that you, humbly ask that you please review, consider, and if so desire, approve the 2024 Harnett Regional Jetport Airport Emergency Plan. The current plan we have in use was created and approved back in 2007. This 2024 draft AEP provides updates to the current AEP and was created using FAA advisory circulars dealing with airport emergency plans, Harnett County Hazmat Response Plan, the County All Hazard Emergency Operations Plan, and the NC AirTap Emergency Guidebook for General Aviation Airports. Several stakeholders were involved in the updates to this draft AEP, including but not limited to Jetport staff, the Division of Aviation, county emergency services, including EM, EMS, and Buies Creek Fire Department, and county administration. Once adopted, HRJ will be implementing this plan, increasing preparedness, response, and recovery efforts at our jetport. This AEP update also took into consideration all aspects of the new terminal building, so implementation will coincide perfectly with the plan moving.
Any questions for Mr. Frank?
I think we need to approve this. I would recommend putting it on the consent agenda for approval.
Any objection to that? Okay, Madam Clerk, let's put that on the consent agenda for next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frank. Appreciate your hard work on that.
Yes, sir.
Next, we have a request to approve a 5-year renewal with Patagonia Health. Ms. Hawkins? Dr. Smith's one?
You skipped
Oh,
item
sorry.
6.
Yeah, ribbon cutting event, number 6. Discuss the ribbon cutting event for the Jetport Terminal. Mr. Frank, sorry about that. You should flag me down.
Mr. Commissioner, I know my name's on this one, but I'm going to step aside and
All
let
right.
our Jetport Board Chairman speak to you.
Okay, Mr. Jerry Milton, Chairman of the Jetport Advisory Committee.
Well, it's been a long time coming, but we're getting to the final stages of finishing up the new terminal building, which I think is something the county can be proud of. And the Jetport Board would like to ask the permission to have a fly-in and ribbon cutting ceremony on May the 18th. With this, we want to have some food trucks and kind of do a slow opening and introduction to the airport for the citizens of Harnett County to come out and see what the airport is and what it can do for the future of Harnett County. We already, there's $5,900 in the budget left from the last air show that we had, and we'd like to use that money to pay for parking and so forth. So with that, we ask permission to have this ribbon cutting and fly in on May the 18th.
Thank you, sir. Any comments or questions for Mr. Milton?
I would recommend approval of this and add it to the consent agenda.
Okay, everybody good with that? Madam Clerk, if you'll add that to consent agenda for next week. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. We're looking forward to it.
I would like to say to
Mr. Milton, Commissioner
Mr.
McCoy had.
Milton, respect. I want to say that I appreciate the work that you all have done out there. You have done a lot of improvement to that. So just want to let you know how much the county appreciate the work that you all have done.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your support, because it took all of us to get it done.
I know you had a lot of the commissioners here.
Like that famous song says, we've only just begun.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McCoy. Okay, Ms. Hawkins, I'll let you come now. Thank you. I'm sorry about that.
Good morning, Commissioners. On behalf of the Health Department, we're requesting approval for a 5-year renewal with Patagonia Health, and that is the current EMR user, electronic medical record provider or vendor that we use at the Health Department. The 5-year renewal would begin on April the 9th, 2024, and end on April the 8th, 2029. As I mentioned, we currently have an agreement in place with Patagonia, but with the renewal, we would receive a 15% discount, resulting in savings of $8,882 for the first year. The total first year payment would approximately be $49,217.14. With the renewal, there also is a cap, meaning that the plan would not go up more than 3% during that 5-year cycle. So with this substantial savings over the 5-year period, the total cost for this agreement is estimated to be $261,300 for the Health Department's electronic medical record system.
Thank you for that.
Does Patagonia do anything besides medical records? Is it used for anything else?
That is primarily how we use it at the Health Department. It is our medical record system.
Anything else, Ms. Hawkins? Consent agenda? Put that on consent agenda for next week, Madam Clerk. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Discuss a request to approve an amendment to the Library Board of Trustees bylaws. Ms. McCauley?
Good morning. Thank
Good
you for your
morning.
time. Because of the new establishment of the Benhaven Library, the Harnett County Public Library respectfully requests the amendment of the Library Board of Trustees bylaws, specifically targeting Article 3, Sections 1 and 3. These proposed modifications seek to include a designated library board member from the Benhaven community, as well as to adjust the commencement of board member term dates to align with the time of appointment rather than waiting until the January 1st following the Board of Commissioners appointment.
Okay, any questions for Ms. McCollum? Everybody good with this?
Yeah, approve it to put on the agenda.
Okay. Madam Clerk, if you'll add that to consent agenda for next week as well?
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Discuss a request to approve a revised Title 6 program plan for Harnett Area Rural Transit System HARTS. Mr. Blevins. Good
Morning,
morning.
Commissioners. This is a request to approve a revised Title VI. Essentially, Title VI for HARTS is a way for us to take complaints for discrimination, a way to advertise how we do business with complaints and how we move forward with those things. The revision is very, very small. Nothing has really changed with the whole program. Just a couple additions like adding the chairman in and new board members that are on our TAP committee. Essentially, again, it's something we'll maybe have to do annually, but we'll just keep bringing it back to the board. So if there's any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Blevins? Agreement to add that to consent agenda for next week? Madam Clerk, if you'll add that to consent agenda as well. Thank you, Mr. Blevins.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have a request to approve a lease agreement for the snack bar in the Resource Center and Library. Mr. Davis, Royer.
Yeah, it's everybody kind of bolted on me today. So you're starting with me.
Left you to carry the ball.
So here today, it's something that we've had requests on even since before we opened the building. On could we possibly have a snack bar option somewhere in the building, not only for folks that are in the library, but also staff and anybody that's here for any event. We learned shortly after we opened, talking to environmental health, that the space would not meet code to put anything in there. So we had a space that we could not use for the designated purpose. As we were talking with environmental health, we realized we could probably get some sort of quick service snack bar option down there if it was prepackaged food and coffee and things like that. So over the past year, we've actually put out 2 RFPs trying to gauge interest from folks from the community to come in and set up a snack bar. And we have only had interest from one individual. And I'll tell you what, it's been a great experience working with them. It's Stick Boy Bakery out of Fuquay Varina, because they came in and they told us exactly what was wrong with the space and how we fixed it to be able to get state approval to be able to operate something out of there. So even when this was still some sort of hazy, fuzzy idea, they were willing to come in and help us out and spend their time to even if we didn't go with them, to make sure we got this right so that we could put something in there. Administration, along with Parks and Recreation, has been working to try to get something in place, and Stick Boy Bakery is interested in opening up a little coffee shop and snack bar in that space. And working with them, we are looking to do essentially what could potentially be a 5-year lease. It'd be a 1-year initial term with 2-year options to be exercised by them at a rate of $250 per month. $3,000 annually for the first year, and then increase of 10% for each option that's exercised beyond that. Based on conversations that have been had in the past and the desire to have this, I went ahead and published something in the Dunn Daily Record just saying that there was this potential for lease out here. So I'm here today asking that this be put on the regular agenda for the March 18th voting meeting, and I'm happy to take any questions on the lease.
Any questions for Mr. Royer this morning?
I would just like for him to repeat the end of your statement about asking for us. What are you asking? Because we can't hear you up here.
Okay, what I'm asking is that we put this lease on the March 18th agenda for approval.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I just couldn't hear you. You
Okay.
were talking so low.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, everybody good with that? So we will add this to the consent agenda for the March 18th.
Mr. Chair, could we add that just the regular agenda, please?
Yeah, we can add to the regular agenda, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And I'm assuming that this is as much for convenience for our employees as it is anything else.
Yes, currently, if anybody's having an event down there, they also have to bring stuff in. So this would be an option that would just be one more offering that we could have as opposed to having everything catered and brought in.
Sounds good. Thank you.
What time will they close?
I believe it'd be during regular hours. So I believe that we were looking at originally 7 a.m. To like 5 or 6.
So if,
2 p.m. I'm sorry.
2
Carl, you
p.m.?
want to step up? Yeah, okay. Okay.
So if somebody has leased or reserved one of the rooms downstairs for an event at 6 o'clock, would they have to make a separate arrangement with this company to, to provide, drinks or coffee and that kind of thing, or?
They would. That's something that we can put them in contact with Stick Boy Company if they wanted them to be present during their event. But right now, we're not going to. We can be the middleman if we need to. But right now, they will only be open until 2 o'clock. We just didn't think it would be necessary, and then for them to have staffing for extra hours in the afternoon wasn't necessary. But for any special events, we can let Stick Boy know what's going on, and if they're willing to serve, then we can definitely work with them.
Okay. Should they come through Parks and Rec, or should they go straight to Stick Boy, or how do you want to do that?
They can come to us when they're setting up the rentals for the facility.
Mhm.
We can discuss it at that point. We can actually make that a part of the questions we ask when we go through that rental process.
Good enough. Thank you.
I will say that Stick Boy has made it known that, if there's a need for that, they'd be more than happy to look at the viability of doing that.
I just want to say, I think it's great.
Yeah.
It was part of the initial plan when we designed this building.
Well, I've heard you say something in the past, so I knew.
I think it's great.
You need a cup of coffee. Anything else? All right. Thank you, Mr. Royer. Thank you, Carl. Okay. Next, I guess you're still up, Thomas. Discuss a request to approve an amendment to the resolution for the expenditure of opioid settlement funds.
Yes, sir. So June of this past year, we came to the board, had you all adopt a resolution for the expenditure of the opioid settlement funds. Since that time, the county has participated in the Reaching Rural program and was awarded a grant at the end of that initial process of $98,000. That $98,000 grant we are going to use for the Jail Navigator program and the administration of medication, and obviously the staff that goes along with it through Southern Health Partners to administer the medication. What we are here today with this amendment is really just to keep everything transparent and out in the open. Speaking with the state partners, they didn't really feel that we needed to do this, but we wanted to make sure that our narrative matched exactly what we were doing. So we're here today to ask you to amend the resolution for the expenditure of the opioid settlement funds to recognize the fact that some of these settlement funds will be used to contract with healthcare providers to provide additional treatment services through the MOUD program, utilizing that $98,000 as supplanted funds.
Okay, you heard a request. Any questions or comments for Mr. Royer? Okay, is this something we can put on the consent agenda, Mr. Royer?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Would that be your request to amend this, to put on this consent agenda to amend this resolution? Madam Clerk, if you'll put that on for next week? Thank you, sir. Okay, fiscal year 24, quarter 2, performance management update and strategic plan modifications. Mr. Morrow.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I know that's a mouthful. So let's see. I want to give you a brief update on the Melissa. There she goes. So I wanted to give you a brief update on what's going on. We didn't move the needle a whole lot this past quarter with all of the items that we have for the key strategic actions, but we did move it a little bit based on the previous quarter. There we go. Well, wait a minute. So we're looking at 31 key strategic actions and other strategic actions through our strategic plan. So as you can see, the in-process part was really what changed just a little bit. And that's based on looking forward. A lot of these key strategic actions are based on budget. So when the budget gets approved, those key strategic actions will come to completion. So that being said, 71% are in process this time. And you can see that 16% are completed on both sides. So we really didn't get a whole lot done, but we're working on it. So, all right. So just wanted to give you an update also on what we have going on with our business plan. Right now, we have training downstairs for staff. We have 3 sessions. We've had 3 sessions. We had 1 session already, and we've got 2 ongoing, and 1 for DSS and health. What's going to happen is these departments are going to create their business plans for fiscal year 2025. It's going to outline what goes on in their day-to-day operations and the functional results of the department. It's going to align to the overall organizational strategic plan, and the business plan should implement and integrate all of this together for the strategic plan for the performance management plan. So it should all flow for the departments, letting them know, and they know what they do on a day in, day out basis. So there were 19 changes to the key strategic actions that you all saw at the planning retreat. And I'm not going to go through all of them. I gave you a copy of the strategic plan. I just wanted to give you an idea of where we're headed with all of this. The changes, we heard all of you through Rebecca, and she and staff have worked together to create all of this, and you all agreed that by changing this for fiscal year 2025 and adopting this going forward, this would put us on the next path. So we reviewed the goals, objectives, and key strategic actions, and based on what you agreed to. So the strategic plan goals did not change. That part of it did not. The goal objectives did not change. And I know this is going to be tough to see, but each of the goals had key strategic actions that did change. And there were 19 of them. And like I said, you all have a copy of it. And when I put this all together, wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get a copy to you, but I was. So based on all of that, that's a very brief overview. And do you have any questions?
Any questions for Mike this morning? Again, I appreciate the update. I appreciate the information and the use of our plan to drive our focus and our progress, and exciting to see how much of this we have, if not completed, at least in process. So I think that's a good thing.
You need to have this on the agenda. We can put it on consent agenda to approve the updated strategic.
Okay, got you. Thank you. So, any objections putting this on the consent agenda to approve the updates that we had previously discussed? Okay, Madam Clerk, if you'll put that on the consent agenda for next week. Thanks, sir. Appreciate that. Okay, next, discuss water line upgrades needed to meet the minimum fire flow requirements for the Cokesbury Ball Road area off of Highway 42 in Northwest Harnett. Mr. Witherspoon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been brought to my attention some time ago, actually back in 2021, that there was a problem in this area with water pressures, specifically the ability to meet the state mandated requirements for fire flow. And I've talked with HRW about this, and I'd like to ask Mr. Ward if he would be so nice as to come up and discuss this from a HRW standpoint.
Sure, I'd be glad to. Good morning.
Good morning.
You see in front of you a map. I think it's right. That is basically, if you look at that map, everything to the far right-hand side of the map is Highway 401, and everything to the left is basically the northwest area of the county. Can you see that going back toward Lee and Chatham?
That includes Duncan and...
That includes Duncan, correct. So what those dots are fire hydrants. So the blue dots represent fire hydrants where we meet 500 gallons per minute. The red dots represent, and yellow dots represent hydrants where the yellow dots are marginal, the red dots, we don't meet 500 gallons per minute. And there's a reason for that. You know, we built this water system throughout the whole county. Again, it's not like a town. Town build water systems, and one of their primary objectives is always to meet fire flow. That's a consistent objective. Our objective 40 years ago was to give a drink of water to people. So when we borrowed money from rural development, USDA agriculture funds, to finance these projects, we did it based on the number of people that were there. If no one was there, there was no reason to put a fire hydrant, a water line, and put that down. And plus, they didn't allow us to finance water line construction for future growth. It was just for existing customers, and you can understand that. So that's what we did. In the past, we've relied on developers. Starting in 2011, the county adopted a UDO that required future development to have 500 gallons per minute. So you can see if a developer wanted to put a subdivision in or development along those areas with the red dots near that area, they would have to upgrade an existing water line normally to meet that fire flow, to increase the fire flow there. And that's helped our system over the years greatly. I mean, it has. Since 2011, we've got bigger lines in places where we wouldn't have before. And it kind of goes back to the axiom that new growth helps pay for itself when that happens. So the northwest area is going to grow. It's going to continue to grow. So I guess the question is what HRW and what the county wants to do about that going forward. Do we still want to be totally dependent upon developers to help upgrade those lines? So we've been looking at this for a while. In 2017, let me advance this. Well, here we go. Okay. In 2017, as part of our normal planning process, we looked at a 40-year growth study. And Hazen and Sawyer, an engineering firm, came down and looked at all the different areas in the county. And we knew even in 2017 that growth was going to come down from Wake County and Johnston County. We knew that. And we knew that the northwest area of the county, by the way, in my opinion, some of the most beautiful property and area in the county. Rolling Hills, just a lovely area, especially down Highway 42. If you hadn't taken that trip and gone all the way to Sanford, I suggest you do that. But regardless, not very many people there, but we knew it was going to grow. So we looked at then how to accommodate that growth. And so Hazen and Sawyer provided us with an upgraded plan, in order to meet future growth, and that involves what you see on the map here. Really, building another pump station along Rawls Church Road or near that area, putting in some PRVs, extending a 12-inch water line up Oak Ridge Duncan Road to our tank, our existing tank on Highway 42 in Duncan, and then extending the 12-inch west of Duncan all the way across the railroad track there to Ball Road. And I know Ball Road has been brought up several times as developers are looking at that area where fire flow is not met right now. And so that's a project that we have got. It's on our CIP. It's planned for FY 28-29. It's called Northwest Harnett Transmission. That project's been there for a while. And again, it's based on timing when we think that enough people will be there to put that infrastructure in place. It's not placed on the CIP in order to facilitate growth now or to facilitate future growth. So that's up to the board if they wanted to speed that process up and do that. I would say that one of the factors that determine when this project is built, we're currently working on a project with Holly Springs as part of an existing contract where we're going to make some distribution upgrades on Highway 401 with a 36-inch water line that we have, build a tank out near the Christian Light area, and put a pump station there to facilitate pushing more water up that line. That would be closer to Lillington than this planned development, so we would want to accomplish that project first. And that project is really close to getting started. We're really just waiting on legal to, working with Holly Springs right now to try to get that contract in place. Once that contract's in place, it's really just an amendment to an existing contract where we provided them with water capacity years ago, probably about 15 years ago now. So once that amendment is approved and the board signs off on that, then I'll come to you with those project details and project ordinance. This is a project that Holly Springs is paying about 75% of the cost for. So, but after that project's done, this is a project we could certainly move forward with at that time. Since 2017, we've had another study done by Timmons Engineering Group. That was a result of a developer wanting to come in and make the improvements at Ball Road and what would be done, needed to be done to facilitate meeting the 500 gallons per minute. So they gave another study pretty similar to this one in scope. They did include the construction of another water tank, and that would probably need to be looked at in that area, in that Ball Road area, to accommodate future growth as well. This original study did not include the construction of a future water tank, but the Timmons, continue please. The Timmons study did, so that would probably add some to the existing cost. The cost back in 2017 was estimated at $8.2 million. A tank by itself will be over $3 million. So you're probably talking somewhere in the neighborhood of $12 to $15 million to accomplish this type project. So that's basically where we are now in this area. I'll be glad to try to answer any questions the board may have.
One of the advantages of implementing this proposal is it will benefit all the citizens in that area, in that by meeting the state mandated fire flow, that's going to give them better rates on their homeowners insurance. So this is not a proposal to benefit, as Mr. Ward said, any development or anything else. It will benefit all of the existing customers. Another thing I'd like to point out, this area, I don't know if how many of you have been out there and looked at it or not, or are familiar with this area. But this area is very close. Chatham County and VinFast and Wolfspeed. There's going to be a lot of people looking for places to live that are working at those two companies alone. They're not all going to live in Chatham County. Number two, this is, and I was hoping that Mr. Barrington would be here today to talk about this, but back in the 2017 in the Hayes and Sawyer report, they recommended these changes for future economic development. Well, it's gotten more potential for economic development with what's going on in Chatham County. If you look at where this land is located, it's extremely close in proximity to Fuquay, Holly Springs, Chatham County, and the new industrial park in Lee County. And when I say in close proximity, I'm talking drive times in minutes, not hours. Like we've got citizens right now driving to RTP for it takes over an hour to get there. We're talking, less than an hour to any one of these. Lee County is going to have new pharmaceutical companies coming in. Holly Springs is going to have new pharmaceuticals coming in, pharmaceutical companies. Chatham County, I've already mentioned. Fuquay, they've got new economic development and companies on the horizon that they'll be announcing. We need to position ourselves because these companies, they're going to be looking for suppliers to be in close proximity to where they're at. And this is a prime location for suppliers to those companies. And so, I would like to see us at least, if we don't put this on the top number one project, I'd like to see us coordinate it or attempt to coordinate it with the Holly Springs project. And I think it's probably going to require a 12-inch water line, and it's also going to probably require a water tank. It's not going to be cheap, but it's...
And a booster station.
I'm sorry?
I said, and a booster station.
Yeah, and a booster station.
Yes.
It's not going to be cheap, but the return that we'll get back in economic development, and not only that, but residential growth, I mean, it's going to happen out there. And I would like to see us really move this project forward as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I don't think there's much doubt, and like all our plans tell us, with that being a future hotspot, that we're going to have to make some of these improvements. It's just a matter of when. When does the board want to move forward? It would be nice if there was an industrial client out there to help us with the funding. That would be super nice. So maybe Stephen can really market that area and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's just a matter of when the board prioritizes that being on the CIP. Like I said, it's already there. So if we want to move it up from 28, 29, all I'm asking for is direction, and we can do that. We have a lot on our plate now. Let's see, there's $122 million worth of projects on FY25 coming up, and another $30 million on FY26. And the water plant schedule, the new water plant, $70 million in FY27. But we can certainly, that's up to the board. If you want to move that up into one of those time slots, understandable.
When's the Holly Springs project supposed to?
Again, we can get started on that immediately. We've already taken some preliminary steps like looking for a tank site, negotiating with an owner. Haven't come to the board with that yet to purchase that price. But everything's finalized. We've been meeting for the last year and a half with Holly Springs about the details. So once the legal agreement's approved and their board is okay with that, and then I'll bring that back to you for your concurrence. Then I'll come to you with a project ordinance, or we can do that simultaneously and move forward.
How long will it take to complete that project? If you start in 25 or 24.
Well, they're really rushing because of Fujifilm and some of the other stuff that they've got going on in Holly Springs. So, I mean, I think that project can be done in 18 months. So if we were to start, let's say this summer, best case scenario, if we were to start, then probably, the winter of 27 or whatever, putting that out there. Winter of 26, whatever, as soon as we could. So a year and a half, I think, once it starts, that can be completed.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
You're talking about Hollow Spring and all of that. Have there been any discussion with them about funding? Yep, funding this? Or will Harnett County be the one funding it?
No, this would all be Harnett County, is what we're talking about. Holly Springs is funding about 75% of the $23 million project that I'm going to come to you with in a couple of months, as soon as the legal agreement is approved.
I wish we did have a industrial customer out there ready to go.
Well, we need one.
I agree with you, but it's going to, if we want one, we need to do these improvements. That's going to enhance this area and our ability to attract economic development out there from an industrial standpoint.
I'm not opposed to it because, like you say, it's very much needed. And if we are to recruit any economic development growth out there, it has to be done. So, but I just hate that we got to bear all the expenses.
Sometimes you have to bite the bullet.
we got to bear all the expense of it.
So let me go ahead.
And would enjoy and reap the benefits of it.
Well, and we just recently approved at our expense another water line in another part of the county. I didn't hear anything at all about economic development or anything. That was simply to serve some existing customers.
I don't remember us approving that. I mean, I remember us discussing it, but I don't remember.
It was on the consent agenda at the last meeting. It got approved. But I'm looking at the long term here and what it can mean to this county. We've always said our number one priority is economic development and to bring jobs to this county.
Right.
Well, here's an opportunity to prepare to do that. And I'd like to suggest that we move this up to fairly, at least halfway through the Holly Springs project, if that's possible, or...
Yeah, when I submit the CIP, I submit it every year at budget time. Our CIP is different than the county's general fund CIP. So when I submit it, I'll move it up accordingly if the board so wishes and put it on the schedule.
What year was it that you had that $8 million valuation on this project?
It was scheduled for FY 28-29.
Yeah, but when was that approved? Or the
The study was done in 2017.
So in 7 years, it went up 30%.
Yeah, it went up.
That's probably about right. Now keep in mind, like usually the estimate done in 2017, we probably could have gotten this project done if we just started that day for $6.5 million. Usually they know that these projects are going to be in the future, and there's a factor in there where they kind of try to account for inflation. Probably not as much as that has happened, but still, I would think that somewhere, like I said, around that 12 to $15 million range if we build a tank. If we don't build a tank, then it could probably come in about 10 or $11 million, somewhere around there.
So let me ask the question that I know Commissioner McCoy would want to ask. Expense-wise, based on everything we've got coming up that we've committed to, so
Sure.
if we were to bump this project up, is that something that you feel like we could handle, or is that going to stretch us?
It's planned in the CIP for us to pay for this project entirely out of our reserves anyway. But again, so now it was, we're talking 5 years down the road here. I think we could. We have to evaluate our cost of service and rates every year. So we would certainly look at all those factors going forward. So not only our internal rates, but our bulk rates, et cetera, et cetera. So if the board wants to go through with this on a certain date, we'll plan accordingly.
And I guess the other thing I would say is, I believe I heard you say we would want to get that Holly Springs project first. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We're going to need the 25% that we're paying for boost our ability to supply much of this water that's needed here now. It increases our ability to do that downstream of where we were going to build the new pump station and tank during this Holly Springs period.
So it would seem to me then that this is something that, and I'm not one for kicking the can down the road, but it would seem to me like this is something that we could put this discussion off a little while when we see this tied up and this project gets started, and have some better idea of when the Holly Springs project is going to come to completion, and then maybe know when we'd be moving this project up and financing and all, or pay as you go and all that kind of stuff that we can talk about at that time.
I agree. Whatever the board's direction is for us, if you want me to move it up a year or two on the CIP based on when we think the Holly Springs project will be completed, I'll be glad to do that, or underway.
I would be fine with
like
that.
to-
I think,
I'd like to see that happen.
Yeah, we could always adjust if
Sure.
something falls apart in the meantime. So
Absolutely.
It makes sense.
Can we add that as a separate line item to be voted on at the next meeting? And can you give us a recommended start date based on the Holly Springs project?
Find
your crystal ball, Steve. Come on.
Again, I think about 18 months after that project, we can certainly start the planning, but actual construction of the booster station, there won't be any use in going forward with this project, at least not on a construction basis, until that Holly Springs project is complete. So again, we're talking 18 months, probably best case scenario from say July 1, June 1, something like that. So.
Chairman?
So,
Mr. Chairman, if I could make a couple comments. I think one of the things that we can look at is, with this being part of the CIP that they propose, that we look at a date prior to approval in the budget, that we bring HRW's capital improvement projects, that list, and have Steve at a work session go through the proposed CIP projects so that you can see how they stack, and then that would give him guidance as he submits his final budget. And I'll work with Steve to figure out the right date based on their preparation for the budget. I think that's the right spot for us to actually take some action on this, we've heard the guidance or the discussion. Steve can work through the numbers related to the projects that he has already listed and see where this fits, and then we'll bring it, before we actually look to approve the budget, bring it before you for discussion.
sounds good. Is that agreeable with everyone?
I think it sounds good because we got a lot going on here in Holly County, and there's a lot that we need to do too. Okay.
Mr. Ward, that sound like a plan to you going forward?
Absolutely.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now, you may still be up. I see, discuss water line upgrades needed for Carolina Seasons neighborhood off of Ponderosa Road. Mr. Weatherspoon?
This is another situation where this will benefit a lot of citizens. This location is actually in Commissioner McCoy's district. And I'm not trying to take over and run her district. I would really like to see her take this ball and go with it.
No, you started, so move on with it.
Well, if you'll help me, I will. Okay. But this is another situation. As I understand it, the people that develop Carolina Seasons have been trying for 20 years to get upgrades in that area. And I think it's time, we've already, we've set the standard at our last meeting when we approved a water line in another part of the county. And what we do in one part of the county, we need to do in the other part of the county, in my opinion. I would suggest or ask that HRW come back to us at a future meeting with a estimate of what it was cost to get the necessary water line at Carolina Seasons so that we can make a determination.
Can I give a little background on this community? I'm very familiar with it. It's on my side of town as well. Carolina Seasons used to have a golf community, what used to be a golf community until 6-7 years ago. The owner, Billy, sold it, and I guess it went to a developer, so part of it is now being developed on where the golf course what used to be. There's no longer a golf course there, but there's probably, about 1,000 homes total inside the Seasons now? 800 and some, close to 1,000.
That's probably right.
And still growing. So,
Yes.
I mean, there is new development still going on over there. And this is right here behind the zoo, off of Milton Welsh and Ponderosa is right into that. So, whatever can be done. I've heard complaints and comments from people out there for a long time as well. So.
Yeah, it's just another situation where, this water line's been there for 25, 30 years. And it was originally fine to handle the situation that was there. Again, it wasn't put in to maximize fire flow. And so now any future development or plans, like Commissioner Nichols said, to develop the golf course, they're butting up against that UDO requirement that started in 2011 about meeting that 500 gallons per minute. And so that's a problem throughout the whole county that future development faces, and how far we're going to stretch that limit out. I've heard from the fire marshal, about future plans where the state's coming back and wanting to do, 1,000 gallons a minute, 1,500 gallons a minute requirements. All those sorts of things. So it's sort of becoming a moving target. It's almost like they want you to be liable if you put down a water line, it's got to meet X condition for anything, even if somebody wants to just build a house or build something that doesn't require that type of fire flow. So that's just something for the board to keep in mind going forward. But that's what's happened there in Carolina Seasons. And in fact, the development has been out there for a long, long time and kind of just stalled. And he's came back to us since and said, hey, I want to do this, but is there any opportunity for us to work together, that sort of thing. So that's where we are.
Well, that's because of all the growth that we have in here in the county.
Excuse me?
I said that is because of all the growth that we have here in the county.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Anything else for Mr. Ward?
Like I said, I'd like to see HR Debbie come back to us.
Ward?
How long do you think it would take to put together some kind of a preliminary proposal?
Just give us a couple of weeks to try to put pen to the paper and see what we can come back with.
Okay.
As far as meeting what we're aware of as far as any necessary upgrades to meet these requirements.
The last work session in March was,
It's fine.
I mean, I'd be good with that. That'd
Okay.
give you more than 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Ward.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have discuss a request to approve an amendment to the SRO agreements. Mr. Trout.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Today, I have before you the list of the amendments to the SRO agreements that would provide for the $5,000 bonus to be paid to each of the SROs within the towns. That amendment is there before you, and request that the amendments be put on the consent agenda for the next meeting.
Any, well, I know we've discussed this several times. Any other questions or comments anybody has?
No, we pretty much agreed to that, so. No
Okay.
problem.
And I did receive the numbers from the town of Lillington yesterday, and so at the next work session, we will bring an agreement that will cover the two SROs. They have one at Lillington, Shawtown, and the Star Academy. They are still receiving some grant money, so we're running through the numbers on the actual impact to the budget, but we'll run it the same way we have in the past, as that they will seek the reimbursement, and in the grant money that the school, the amount requested for reimbursement will be lower than the other towns, but it'll still work the same method.
Sounds good. Madam Clerk, if you'll put that on consent agenda for next week, thank you.
Now, let me say something.
Yes, Commissioner.
Just want to make a clarification on something that was said in our last meeting. The facility in Shawtown is a Harnett County entity.
Isn't it
So-
the school?
The school, the development building that we invested in.
Uh-huh. Oh, it is, which one? The one
that
over
we
by Dunn?
invested in.
The one that we're investing in over by Dunn?
Right, and the one that we remodeled in there, so we have Boys and Girls Clubs in there. We have many different organizations in there. So that's part of our Harnett County government here.
Right.
I just want to make that clear.
Okay, next we have discussion of the Alliance Board of Directors allocation of 2 board seats for Harnett County residents. Mr. Trout, I believe you
Yes.
have that one as well.
Yes, so I've been in communication with the Alliance Health Organization. They're our new LME MCO. And what they have is a process for allowance. Their board voted to allow 2 seats on their current board that would be available to appointments from Harnett County. So the way they do this is we would provide a recommendation, or we would try to find individuals that meet the qualifications they're looking at for the board expertise. Currently, they're looking for people that have expertise in the following areas: physical health, technology, data analytics, healthcare administration expertise consistent with the scale and nature of a managed care organization. So those are the individuals that they would like to have on the board. The board could appoint a commissioner to that board if they wanted to. However, we also, I'll talk in the next item, is they do have a county commissioner advisory board. So with it, what we want to have the board do is determine if they know of individuals that meet this requirement of physical health, technology, healthcare administration, and ask them to apply to be on the board. And there's a application that was, a link that was sent to me that I can then forward if you have individuals. So I'd request that the board look at individuals they know that meet this type of requirement that would be good to serve on the Alliance Health Board, and provide that information to me, and I will forward it to them. They then interview the individuals and determine if they're a good fit for the board, and then extend an offer for them to be on the board. And the county commissioners basically confirm that that is an individual that would represent the county well. So it's a little different process than we had with Sandhills. Sandhills, the board simply picked individuals they wanted to serve on the board. Here, Alliance Health interviews the individuals to determine if they're a good fit for the board, because the board is, for Alliance Health, is considered a working board, and that's why they're looking for individuals with certain expertise. And then the next item we have on the agenda, they have a separate County Commissioners Advisory Board, which obviously they're looking for someone from this board to serve on that. We'll come to that in a second. So if you have individuals that might fit the request, please let me know, and then I will provide them the information so that they can be considered for the Alliance Health Board.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Would these individuals have, well, it was seen that these individuals would have to be in the health industry.
That's what they're looking for, yes, ma'am. And this board meets once a month. They meet in person and virtual. So if you think of an individual that maybe would say, well, it's a lot of time because their office is in Morrisville, and their concern is, taking an hour to travel to the office, go to a board meeting, and an hour back. They do conduct their meetings in a hybrid format, so it would really be an hour to an hour and a half that they would have to commit depending on the board meeting length. So that is a good thing with this board. I know that Commissioner Nickel had to drive a long ways for a long meeting and then a long ways back. So this will make it easier for good quality individuals to consider to be on the board.
Yeah, it would, because I think all of us have drove those miles serving on the Sand Hill board. And I'm glad to hear that whoever takes this position won't have as many miles as we had to drive. Okay.
Next item.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Trout. So that, if you think about folks in our community who might have the background and experience and desire to serve, please have a conversation with them, pass that information on to Mr. Trout.
And if you look back in your email, the clerk of the board, Melissa, she sent out an email that had the criteria.
Yes, sir.
So look back in your email. There's an email from her that lists this information as to who they're looking for and the place to go to do the application. So if you get contacted, you could just as easily forward the information from your email to them, or I will assist you.
Very good, thank you. Okay, so that does bring us to discussion of the commissioner representative for the commissioners group. Mr. Trout, you want to lead that?
Yes, so the County Commissioner Advisory Board for the Alliance Health meets 4 times per year, usually from 3 to 4. Their next meeting is June 6th. They do also meet in a hybrid format, so that would be something for an individual to consider. So what I'll be looking for from the board is if there's an individual that you would want to, from the board, that would want to be nominated for this position, then we can look to approve that at the next meeting, so that then they can be set up to be able to attend the next Commissioner Advisory Board on June 6th.
Thank you, Mr. Trout. So why don't we just leave it like this? If any of you would have an interest in serving on that board, if you'll convey that to County Manager Trout, and then we'll discuss moving forward.
Should we add this as a separate item for the next meeting?
That'll be fine.
And then we can take nominations.
Okay, and that brings us to the appointments this time. See, we had a recommendation for a reappointment of Dr. Evans to the Board of Health. Ms. Hawkins relayed that to us. She currently serves on the board and is the dental representative, and her term expires March 31st, 2024. I believe Commissioner Weatherspoon has talked with Dr. Evans and has recommended her to be appointed to another term. Is there any objection to that? Hearing none, we'll add her as well to the consent agenda for next week, Madam Clerk. Thank you. Also, I want to thank all of you for doing a good job of finding citizens who were willing, have been willing to serve. As our list of vacancies seems to have dwindled quite a bit, but we do have a few still out there. So if you see one and can think of someone that you know would be willing to serve and would do a good job representing our citizens, please encourage them to apply. Okay, that brings us to the county manager's report. Mr. Trout.
Thank you. I have a few items to go over today. The next Alliance Health Town Hall meeting is going to be March 11th at the Ben Haven Community Center. So if individuals are interested in learning more about Alliance Health and their provision of service, they'll be available at that town hall meeting. At the last 2 meetings ago, there was a discussion regarding looking at an RFP for the security system at the Jetport. Wanted to let you know that staff has moved forward and published a request for proposal, and I believe they're due back March 5th for consideration. Their information was provided. It was left open-ended, and we'll see what kind of proposals we receive back. Also, that one of the items that was discussed at a previous meeting was regarding the system development fee change related to residential customers and what would be necessary in order to allow, no matter the size of the meter or the service line, the same cost if it was being used for residential purposes. Mr. Ward has checked with our consultant, and through the review, it does not require further action by the board in order to do that at this time. So we will take care of that administratively. So if an individual comes and requests that, we'll be able to take care of it at this time. We will make a formal entry into the information when we approve the budget through the resolution noting that. Let's see.
Mr. Trout, if I can, talking about the fee schedule, when would that become effective? And another question I was asked just last night, will it be retroactive until June 1st of
I think
last year?
that would be something that if we were going to look at being retroactive, we would need to go back and look at our records as to how many we've approved, and that probably would need to come before the board in order to approve anything retroactive. So that would be something. Now, as far as going forward, it's effective immediately already related to anyone that will walk in today and make an application for that. They would be charged the new rate versus the old rate.
Okay, thank you.
So the last item I had is there was some discussion related to nonprofit organizations and reforming the committee and considering funding for that organization. Staff has been looking at that. Commissioner Nickel had mentioned in the past that he was looking at various options, and through that we found information from the local community foundation, some good examples of methods that we can use in order to make decisions on who would receive funding as a nonprofit. So what I'm looking to do is pull together staff, and we will look to provide some information to the board on a revised system that relates to the provision of funding for nonprofits. That will provide both the makeup of the committee. A lot of that I think will be okay, but then looking at the requirements that we'll establish as to who's eligible and the process that they will use in order to determine who should be selected to receive funding. And once we have that in place, then the timing is good as we look forward. If we feel comfortable with that, then it can be considered for funding in our budget as we move forward with that process. So the hope would be is we can provide this information, feel comfortable with the new set of guidelines, and then consider the funding at that time when we go through the budget process. So look forward to sharing that with the board in a couple weeks.
Hey, I have one question on that. The committee existed for a number of years to and the county funded. And they screened the nonprofit organizations, and they had to qualify in order to receive the money. And then they had to come back and report to us as to how that money was used. Why can't you look at the bylaws that was drawn up by our own attorneys to proceed in the same way? Because I think it was a good procedure.
Right.
No organization got money. Yes, it did. One. That wasn't a 501c3. The money wasn't given to them just to be given to the organizations, to say the Harnett County giving money to nonprofit. The money had to be used to assist our citizens in a way that this commission board and the commissioner couldn't assist. So I don't see why you gotta go to draw up new, look at it and all that. Look at the old bylaws, look at the way the procedure was put in place and the procedure that we used for it, and see if that's reasonable enough. And then, if you wanna add or delete something from it, that makes sense to me.
Yes, ma'am. That's what my
Create a
intention.
whole new procedure.
No, my intention is to do exactly what you just stated, ma'am.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I appreciate your input.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Trout. I appreciate you and your staff's work on a number of these items that have been brought up recently by the board, and thank you for your
You're welcome.
efforts in that regard. Do we have need for a closed session?
No, Mr. Vice Chair.
Okay, hearing no need for a closed session, do I hear a motion that we adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, folks. Oh.